can't flex the shoulders overhead, that has to arch the spine. Is that a core issue or is that a shoulder issue? It's a little bit of both. They need to be able to draw down while pressing up overhead, but I'd rather do some shoulder work and teach them how to properly utilize the shoulder than just have them plank away. Like I just find that idea of core is so misleading. It's like we need to create space in the hips. We need the hips to understand how to move. We need the shoulders how to understand how to move. Once those two pieces are in place, the spine can create stability. Yes. Right. And it's a concept that has never. It's out there. There's a lot of guys saying the same thing as I am. It's not readily available for whatever reason. It's just never really been pushed that way. Maybe it's too difficult to understand.
Yeah. I mean, it is a different language. So with your clients, you're assessing all of this in their movements, and you're seeing where there's limitations, and then you're offering them.
So like I don't do. I mean, if I'm working one-on-one with a client, I'll do assessments and whatnot. But when people come in, it's a class-based facility, right? The whole point is everyone has their own starting points, and just recognizing that and not putting them in positions where it's going to be detrimental. So I don't expect anyone to have perfect movements. Like it takes years to develop that, right? But you're coming in, and it's just a matter of teaching you from the get-go, where it's like, this is where you are, this is where I want you. It's going to take time. So long as I'm not loading you with weights that are going to become detrimental, you'll be fine. It's when you start to exceed those limits that you put yourself in danger. Not to mention, this is where the WOD becomes damaging. It's like someone doesn't have function of a joint, but now they're layering it 45 times in a workout, right? And we shouldn't be looking to add strength. It's on my wall. Shouldn't add strength to dysfunction, and that's what a lot of people are doing.
That's cool,
right? That was Great Cook. He's a huge physiotherapist. This guy's full of all these metaphors, but he's got some. Here's something to think about. If you were to think of the perfect human specimen. Not you, but the perfect human specimen.
Not me to think about, or not me. I'm not
fictional or real person.
Hypothetical perfection. Okay.
Give me one name. It could be. It's a fictional person, but
like a peak physical.
Like someone who can, as a human being, can do everything.
Fitness wise. Well, I'll say Schwarzenegger back. But
definitely the aesthetic.
Right.
No, Tarzan. And the reason I say that is
I never met him.
Neither have I. The Amazon. Was he in? I don't even know where he was from.
Jungle.
Well, the Amazon. He can run, climb, crawl, sprint, carry, swing, everything. Like he has the physical capacity to do just about anything. And I remember back to this Great Cook. Great Cook always talked about this, about how you take someone who has dysfunctional joints and put them on a CrossFit style program, you turn them into a patient. But if you take someone who has functional joints, has functional capacity, you turn them into Tarzan when you put them on a CrossFit style program. Yeah. So it's like, this is my point where I don't just want to work on someone's engine. I want to work on someone's mechanics. I want to take them into the gym and utilize the gym almost as a garage, literally, as a garage to recalibrate the body before we really put it to the test every day. So in working and understanding strength and mobility, to me the two are intertwined, and building back that function of joints, and then layering in, conditioning work on top of the strength work, all of a sudden you're getting a body that can do things like Tarzan, that you can turn that person into a thriving, optimally performing human being.
So, I mean, I got that image of you. This is you doing the, what would you call that?
That would be a back lever.
A back lever. Yeah. So this is something a gymnast or Cirque du Soleil would do.
I can't do it as good as that. That's in a straddle position, so my legs are apart. They'd be able to do it together.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but that I appreciate that.
I still have more to go. I still have something else to learn.
And we talked a lot about I guess your ability to recognize the form and the training that goes into it. I want to touch on the other half of it. Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to say the other half would be the nutrition side of it. So what have you learned, and what have you tried? What has worked? What has not worked? Where are you now? Because you also have a health, a dietary guide, if you will. which I think, I mean, the 2 booklets that you sent me, the PDFs, like there's so much knowledge that you've invested into it, so much information.
Information overload.
But it's all practical. It's I think anyone who's, you know, whoever's been in fitness or whoever wants to get into it, they need to look at both of these. So you got to make these somehow available to the public at a cost, because it's worth it. Why don't you because obviously, like, do you remember what your body fat is? We did it
last week.
11.3% body fat. You're probably the lowest body fat I've ever measured here.
That's a lie.
Actually, you know what? I think there was someone, but they're like skewed. What's that?
It's got to be.
No, but like seriously, like if they were, it wasn't through fitness. It was like just they're very thin and small. But
I was happy with my visceral fat score because that was pretty low.
Was it?
That was 4.
4? Yeah, that's really low. But why don't you tell us what your diet is? Like because you're a healthy fats guy.
Yes.
And you have the lowest body fat of anyone that's fit.
I've kind of experimented a lot. You actually spearheaded a lot of change. I don't know if you knew this.
I don't.
I remember years back when me and an ex-girlfriend went into your old clinic.
Yeah.
And you showed me my live blood cell analysis on screen, and I saw some little floaties.
Yeah.
And it like threw my world upside down. So between you and a couple of other friends I had who were very health oriented, that moment like just shifted gears entirely. And that was when I really started to really dive into nutrition, the nutritional side of fitness. And I mean, I experimented with everything. I did the paleo stuff, kind of the zone diet stuff that CrossFit really promotes.
Do you think that works for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's very case specific. Man, it is such a polluted space.
Yeah.
Like right now, nutrition science is so difficult to gauge because you're getting way too many voices, and it really does have to be case specific. But I experimented with vegetarian. I'm not gonna say vegan. Vegetarian for periods of time early on. I just felt way too weak. I did not thrive off of vegetarian.
It wasn't for you, yeah.
No. I experimented with keto, and man, I felt amazing. But I don't think you know what? I didn't have problems with keto. I don't want to say it was unsustainable because it had nothing to do with that. I just kind of lost track of it and slowly pulled away. Like I just naturally pulled away from it. To me, a friend of mine always says, 1 ingredient foods. I kind of agree with that. I think there's something to, we touched on it, like
Whole Foods, you mean? Yeah.
Right. I think we were just talking about Plant Paradox, the book, and the dangers of lectins. I think there's something to that. I think I really went down a carnivore rabbit hole early on in quarantine, and I think there's
where all the rabbits are. I think taking that carnivore thing is too serious.
I think there's some value to that. How I eat on any given day is I mean, it's tough to say. I don't really hold myself to any dogma. Mm-hmm. I just, we all know what clean eating is, and to me, it's quality source protein. So I do a lot of game. I do a lot of bison, venison, elk.
Why?
Or I like the taste of it. It's generally more. It's grown on pasture. You're not dealing with the antibiotics, the hormones, the corn, the soy, the damaging stuff. You're minimizing the inflammatory elements of the food. So I enjoy a lot of game.
So it's just a cleaner.
Yeah, I find it a cleaner source of protein.
Right.
I do a lot of eggs. Anyone that says not to eat egg yolk, I want to slap. There's so much nutritional value to be had in yolk.
Yeah.
And I try to tell everyone, it's like, you have a shell, you have the white, you have this membrane protecting this source of life. Yeah. There's so much life and quality nutrition in that yolk. Why are we negating it? Because of cholesterol, which is a whole other topic.
And the interesting is for me, the egg white
is the most damaging part.
Yeah, it's hard to digest.
Yeah.
No one produces enough enzyme because when we do food sensitivity testing,
it always comes back.
It's really high, and I don't think people are allergic to egg white. I think the they show a sensitivity because you need so much enzyme activity, and no one is digesting well. That's a stress response, right? So you're underproducing enzymes and acid when you eat. So if you're only eating egg whites, it's like the hard. You ever spill egg whites on a stove when you're cooking?
Yes.
You know how hard it is to scrape that off if you let it sit? That's what. Like, how does your stomach digest?
Right. That's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that. I have eggs every morning. It's quality meats, greens, and eggs. That's essentially my diet. I'll have sweet potatoes. I'll do some carb. Like, I'm not anti-carb. I just try to stay away from breads and wheats and sugar. To me, sugar and vegetable oil, cut the two of them out. Everything else, I think, is pretty okay. Like, those are the two. I'm scarred from vegetable oils. There was one specific book I read years ago, and I've had French fries twice since reading that book 5 or 6 years ago, because I can't do just fried vegetable oils. I can't do tempura when I just can't do it. Vegetable oils to me are the worst thing you can put into your body, even more so than sugar, even though sugar is really bad.
Well, explain that. What do you think? Like,
it's just like it's an oxidized damaged fat, and your body just doesn't understand what to do with it, and it's what causes such metabolic dysfunction. Sugar and vegetable oil, the two combined, are just
saturated fats and sugar. Yeah,
it's just it's the worst thing. So,
poison.
Yeah, legit.
Yeah. It just creates fatty liver, and once you have a fatty liver, things don't work.
Well, there you go. And there was a handful of books that I read in the past that were very paleo keto-esque.
Yeah.
That kind of hammered home those points. So I'm not following a keto lifestyle or diet plan, but I do fall in line with a lot of what they're promoting. Like, even I think there's a lot of cohesion to keto, to paleo, to veganism, to there's so much more that brings us together, and we're all arguing about nonsense. It's like, why aren't we just focusing on the points that we're
everybody wants to be on the right team.
But it's like, you really have to individualize it, and this is where food sensitivity testing. You just said it. It's like a lot of people's digestion is broken. How about we just fix digestion?
That's right. That's the reason,
right?
I don't think most foods don't cause sensitivities. I think our inability to digest certain things is what leads to the sensitivity being formed in the first place.
Right.
So if someone I can't tell you how many times people go on vacation, when they were able to go on vacation, and they would come back and they're like, those foods you said I couldn't have, I ate them on my vacation. I felt fine. And then I came back, I started eating them because I thought I was better, and they hurt me again.
I'm sure it happens all the time.
All the time. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Does it mean they are not really sensitive? It means you're sensitive if you don't digest it.
Yeah.
If you can't break down those proteins are getting detected as a foreign antigen in your intestinal, the gut-associated tissue.
Could it be? And you just touched on something. So, the thing you hear all the time is every time you go to Europe, I can eat all the pasta in the world and I don't feel bloated.
Well, that's a different story too, right?
Could it also be just that element of rest and digest? You're in more of a parasite.
I think that's half of it. I think the other half is the dairy and the wheat. There is like how it's supposed to be produced, not here.
Right. I agree with that.
And also I have a lot of patients from Asia, and when they bring over their they are practicing their cuisine, their heritage, their diet here, they have a lot of problems with the food items because it's heavy into the gluten and the dairies, and when they're having it here, I'll literally tell them you can't eat like that here. Or even people from Italy that they live there most of their life, they move here now, and they're like, we gained 15-20 pounds in the last year and we're eating the same way. How do you explain that? And I'm like, it's the food here. They're like, we eat the same way in the same amounts. And now we've gained and our stomach is bloated and we don't feel well and we have anxiety, and I'm like, I believe you.
The list goes on.
It's bad.
So you're saying we have to move to Europe? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know that's what you're saying. I always tell people like you can live here, but you have to change how you eat.
Yes.
Like you have to adapt to the environment, and this is not an environmental thing where it's like, oh, it's cold. I'm saying the environment of like how the food is produced here.
I mean, like there's a lot to it. I think like our soils are depleted. I just think we're so detached from our food sources here. And that was another thing in Europe. It's like I remember going to a restaurant ordering a steak, and I got it was the best steak I ever had.
And he chased the cow?
No, he was like, hey, on the way in, you see that farm on the left side of the highway?
That's where I get it.
Yeah. Where it's like, where did we get ours? Ours came from, I don't even know.
It's frozen.
I get mine from the farm now, but if I go to Sobeys, if I go to Longos, if I go to these grocery chains, the package that's coming from, God knows where. We're so detached from our food supply here, where I think that plays a role as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're detached from our food supply because we're detached from our food.
Yeah.
We're detached, we're detached from the buying component. Like now we can even get people to buy our food for us and like drop it off at their friends. Like I mean, during the quarantine, obviously that was like a very viable option for most people, and I encouraged it. But I mean, that also speaks to the point. It's like if you're not actually picking out your individual food items and you're not actually looking at them and you're actually like seeing what you're buying, if you're buying things that are already pre-packaged, you're buying things that are already pre-made, those foods are dead.
Yes.
Like we have to talk about like what like the life force in our environment, where you live, where you work, where you sleep.
And like even something as simple, like I talk a lot about the importance of like grass-fed beef, and we all understand it, but it's something as simple as the sun sends its rays down and feeds information to the grass. That cow now feasts on that grass and now pulls that information that came from the sun into the grass, now digests it, it gets sent throughout its body. All this energy exchange happens.
Yeah.
And when we're, now with, and I don't want to slander it, I can, but like the Beyond Meat agenda, where we're going to this processed crap, like it's dead food. There's no life to this food.
I tend to agree.
How are you gonna thrive with no life coming into your body?
You can't.
Exactly.
You can't. Like it's not real. So if it's not real, don't have it. Like I don't eat gluten. So for me to have something that's gluten free looks like a gluten bun, I'm like, I don't actually need. I don't have to have that. Like there's some things that are like an alternative, like a dairy that like you can have coconut yogurt and it serves a purpose. Sure. But again, it's sort of like it's a deviation from an original food. Something there's a purpose to it. Now we're coming up with a almost like a clone of it, an artificial version of it, because the original is now causing more harm than good.
Right. Yeah. But it's like we're because of the lack of information exchange. Mm-hmm. There's no life being provided. We're literally just consuming calories.
Yeah.
Calories are like,
we're hungry, so we got to fill ourselves.
Right? It's like I have to hit my 2,500 calories a day because it's like, well, like this is another huge component that I think it's I'm not going to say lost. I think we all know what we should be eating to some degree, but so few people have the discipline or awareness. Or I think it's just understanding. I think when you understand why something is so damaging and why something is not optimal, it's easy to make the right decision. And we're told sugar is bad. We don't know. A lot of people just don't understand why sugar is bad, right? We might hear that. Not a lot of people hear that vegetable oil is bad, but in knowing why vegetable oil is bad, it's easier to make the right decision when I'm presented with it, right? And
well, even knowing something's bad, unless you know what's the alternative of something good to replace it, or just not like to not eat a certain way. Like if I always ask people like, what do you like if you ever watch TV, like it actually influences so much of what you just innately know and don't even recognize. If I said to the average person, okay, write a grocery list. The first things you write is bread, milk, eggs,
mine would just
oranges. What was that?
So mine would just be eggs.
but that's the thing. Like we're kind of it's programming,
right?
So like it's not that there was anything wrong with those foods, but now I'm making the argument that they're not in the state that they should be.
Right.
They're being produced in a way to maximize yield and profits.
Right.
So obviously quality is going to be compromised.
This might slightly veer off topic, but not entirely. I don't know if you ever read it, or have you heard of Dr. Weston A. Price? He was a dentist. He wrote a book, Nutrition and Degenerative Disease, I think it was called.
Okay. It's interesting him being a dentist, what he would be saying. Right.
Yeah, and so he was a dentist in North America, I believe, and he traveled around the world to a lot of indigenous cultures, a lot of remote areas.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, and he studied, their dental health, and he found such optimal dental health in these
remote,
these remote communities that have
no sugar.
Nothing. Right, and he was trying to say it's like the industrialization of food and processing and all this when
we think modernization that we think is an improvement on general health,
right, left us with poor dental health and a lot of
even the shape of our mouth, the spacing. Now we have to get our wisdom teeth removed because did he touch on that?
It's a really in-depth book. Yeah. He compares it to even things like vitamin D levels and people who had access to the sun and who would only consume a lot. There was a lot of like carnivore-esque cultures out there, and just comparing like what the correlation was that where the industrialized food industry really took over was where they had the worst dental health. And we can still see that today, clearly. Like for a continent like North America to have such health problems, to me makes no sense. We spend more money than anybody. We're watch the sidelines of an NFL game. Yeah. Worst thing you've ever seen in terms of health. Like it's just like we don't see vibrant, healthy people like we do in other parts of the world. And I think
you're speaking to like the obesity epidemic.
The opening book of Carnivore Code, Paul Saladino, opening page: 87% of Americans are metabolically dysfunctional. Yeah, 87%. Yeah, that is crazy. And that was from what? Following a standard American diet over the last 30, 40 years? Yeah. Like, how have we not pulled away from that? How are people not waking up? I mean, the food is probably keeping them asleep, right? But we should be doing more to push health. And I don't think it necessarily starts above us. It starts with the individual, right? It's like, to me, this is where, we all should, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but we should take ownership of ourselves and want to...
That's not a wrong thing to say.
No, it's not a wrong thing to say.
We shouldn't second guess that. You should take responsibility for it. And I think one thing that has been lost, and I'm hoping that these videos would help ignite, is usually, especially when you're young, you see someone that's a bit older than you that is living a certain way or looks a certain way or is able to do something that is like, I want to do that. I want to be able to I admire people that were like fit and like exercise and went to the gym and had I like that because I recognize something good in it. I didn't want to be like taking anabolic steroids to I wanted to just work out, right. And I like that. Nowadays, there's very few voices of reason and good examples and role models that are like, can we just put those people at the front of the line now so that everyone can get a look? It's like, hey, this is a good person to follow. This is someone who knows what they're talking about, as opposed to someone that's got a ton of followers and is saying all the right things, but their life, if you look at them for 10 minutes, you'd throw up.
This is where I say it's such, fitness and health is such a polluted space these days, and it's so hard to. It's not that you're looking to necessarily stand out, but it's hard to create an authentic voice when there's so much out there. And we could have this conversation, all of our clients could hear it, but just as they're watching it, something can pull them aside and give off completely conflicting information. What are they to believe?
Well, that's right. Who are they to believe?
Proof is in the pudding.
But that's right. That's my point. Is like if you can hear a lot of people talk, but then you have to see the results. Right. I'll look at you, and then one of the things I mentioned was your body fat. And it's like you focus on healthy fats, high protein, carnivore type of diet. When lowest body fats, very low visceral fat, all your numbers are awesome. You are fit. So something you're doing is right, and your strength and your ability, what your ability is. So it's like, someone else could be like, no, I don't agree with him. It's like, well, but can you do what he's doing?
Skin the game. I said this to you last time. It's like there's no substitute for repetition. And I think, like, in having gone through different eras and trying different things, trying different diets, and seeing what really worked and what didn't, you build that wisdom. Like, it's one thing to get the information and explore knowledge, but the only way you get that wisdom is from taking that knowledge and running with it and exploring it and seeing what works and what doesn't. And like, I've kind of been there. What's working for me might not work for somebody else, but I still think there are some simple universal truths that the person can tap into. Mm-hmm. The hard part in dealing with the everyday clientele is, like, we have age working against us, right? It's like, I'm 36, I'm not 21 anymore. Mm-hmm. I need my sleep. I need to eat better. I need to cut out crappy foods. I can't consume my alcohol. I need to take care of myself. And as we get older and as our body, metabolically starts to break down little by little, it gets more and more difficult. And that's the hard part that people don't understand, is there's so many pieces to health. It's not just the exercise, it's the nutrition, it's the stress management, it's the digestion, it's our stress management, it's hydration, it's our social time. Like, there's so many little pieces to this, and if one of them is out of balance, it's enough to throw the whole system out of balance. Mm-hmm. And it's really difficult to get people to see that whole and be able to put in the work on all elements until you see a strong enough reason why and you're willing to do it, right? And I think it just comes from education, it comes from practice, it comes from that skin in the game, it comes from effort. Yeah. And the more you push, the more you put into it, the more you start to learn these types of truths, and then all of a sudden you become that walking inspiration. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not one into marketing and really pushing. I'm still learning the social media stuff. I can't stand it. But I like my clients to do the branding for me. Like, they're ultimately my best asset. It's like the more they vibrate, the healthier they get, the more people are going to see them and be like, man, what are you doing? Like, that's what I got to do. Like, it's always the best form of marketing. And it's a very organic process, but you build a legit, strong community and following because of it. Yeah. It's just so, it's a difficult time to navigate this fitness and health world, because people are looking a lot at the aesthetic side. There'll be a guy on Instagram who's shredded, right? And, people will be like, oh, he knows what he's doing. It's like, well, he could just be a genetic freak. Like, he might not be giving off the best information.
I mean, that's it. If his information can translate to someone who wants it, it's like, okay, well, I'm doing what you're doing, but it's not working for me.
Right.
I think there's enough variability in people. It's like, there's someone out there that's speaking truth and making sense that can help.
There's a lot. It's funny? A lot of my biggest influences, they're not guys who got millions of followers. They got like 5,000 followers. Yeah. But to me, they're like some of the smartest geniuses in the health and wellness space.
Well, I think you can, when you have a good foundation and you have this knowledge base, you find the genius in other people.
Yes.
Like, because you have an advanced understanding. Like, you can recognize it. Yeah. Whereas people who are more popular, not to knock them, but they're popular because they're popular. It's not because, they're saying, I don't like when people are just regurgitating like what's been done before. It's like, but okay, I've heard all of that stuff. But you're sort of just kind of circling. Like, you never actually
get to the
land.
Yeah. And that's everywhere. It's even like in the self-development space, like, people are just regurgitating lines from books, having never lived that experience. But regurgitate lines.
Create your own line.
Right? Like, it's so difficult to navigate in today's space. And this is where, as much as we, especially with another lockdown, in going through this quarantine, it's like a lot of people are saying that, the future of fitness is in the home. It's not in the home. And I see that, and I see the power of community. I got a gym full of people who are, who weekly show up 4 or 5 times a week, and they say, like, I can't work out at home. It's not the same. I need that space. And on top of that, it's like, you, as a coach, like, I have a coach. I have people teaching me, and I'm taking what I learn and fast tracking it for all my members as well. But it's important to have someone who's outside the frame looking in to give you the advice you need. And I don't think it comes from just like a YouTube tutorial people. You know what I mean? It's like you need someone watching. If you want to learn, you can learn things on your own. I learned a lot on my own, but I got exponentially better when I had a coach. To really excel, you need someone over top of you mentoring and really providing that button to push, right? And I don't buy this whole, we can do this on our own at home. It's not the case.
I mean, if we're locked in, I get
we
it.
don't have much of a choice.
Right, but I mean, eventually things will be okay. Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen, and people need to get into your space.
Yeah.
And so, what's the best way for people to kind of connect with you, like online or social media?
My social media, my Instagram tag is 905 Athletics. If you want to check out my website, 905-athletics.com. We do free trials, not right now, obviously, because we're not open. But when things do,
we're gonna look probably in January. I think we'll have a reprieve from all this. But I think this was so amazing. Dude, I know that we can't get to everything.
Absolutely not.
It's already been
way too much to say.
It's actually was an hour, so I think it's probably a good time to sort of like just wind it down for today, and maybe in a week or two, right after Christmas, maybe.
I am off for the next little while.
So we'll do it sooner than later, and we'll talk more specifics. It'll be really cool. Thank you. You always got a million things to say.
Too much to say.
No, it's okay. No, it's all good. All right, guys, thank you for watching. I'm gonna put this on Instagram, TV, and YouTube. Be sure to follow Anthony at 905 Athletics. And you got to get people will ask for these your manifesto.
I'm selling it. I know.
Yeah.
When people sign up to my program, I end up sending them copies. I just highly advise people read them. There's a wealth of information in there.
If they're free, people won't read them.
I know.
So even if it's just a small fee, and you're supporting Anthony, and he's got
during times like these.
All right, guys. We'll talk later.